Hello and welcome to Information Week's Valley View. I'm Fritz Nelson.
And I'm David Berlin.
And we are here live at the San Francisco offices of our parent company TechWeb and our studios here, and we have quite a lineup here for our Valley View show.
We do. We also have a live audience here in the room, so they're going to be participating at some point, unbeknownst to them. But going back to our lineup here, our first guest is going to be Edward Saatchi. He is the CEO and founder of National Field. Some of you remember that social media played a large role in the successful election of President Obama. It's going to be playing a major role this year, of course, in the 2012 election. The Republicans clearly are going to be catching up. They've seen how it's done. They're going to be learning. Edward Saatchi was at National Field, were a big part of that strategy for the Obama campaign. So we'll be talking to him about what made it so successful, what they'll be doing this year. And then we're going to have Sanjay Poonan. He's the president of SAP. Earlier today, the German-based software company announced its best results ever in the history of the company. He'll be here to tell us what it was that they did to achieve those results in 2011, and then also what they'll be doing in 2012 to better them.
I think it was all Sanjay's doing, by the way.
And clearly all his doing. That's why we have him here. Although, in fairness, the co-CEOs were in Germany announcing the results this morning. We couldn't get them over here in time. So.
All right, and then last time we talked about the fact that we're going to CES, and we're going to show maybe some stuff from CES?
That's right. We were at CES. We were scrounging around the show floor looking for some of the greatest technology and gadgets, and we'll be giving some demos of those gadgets to you right here. Some of the companies are here to show them off for us. And then later in the show, we'll actually be giving away some of what we collected on the show floor to some lucky members of our live online audience.
All right, great. Well, let's get started.
Yeah, well, normally when we start Valley View, you have some news to share with our audience, so...
All right, let's do the news. Let's do the news. Foxconn, a Chinese manufacturer that counts Apple as a big customer, churning out its iPhones and iPads, had a moment in the rising sun earlier. Its chairman, Terry Gao, compared managing his workforce to managing animals and set out to learn about doing just that from the director of the Taipei Zoo. Upon hearing this, Apple rival Samsung, with whom the company is involved in a series of patent disputes, immediately hired 2 giraffes, a zebra, and an endangered Barbary serval. When an employee was asked how he felt about this, he simply purred, rolled over, and asked the reporter to scratch his belly. Mega Upload, one of the internet's most popular sites, but also a supposed haven for illegally copied content, was shut down by the U.S. Justice Department last week in what was deemed a mega conspiracy. It turned out that Mega Upload wasn't just making money hand over fist. Its leadership team was spending that money faster than you can spell SOPA. Mega Upload's founder, one Kim.com, not his real name, by the way, made $42 million in 2010. Only Kobe Bryant's ex-wife has ever made more by doing so little. This is a download site, not a hedge fund, folks. Just for contrast, former Senator Christopher Dodd, now the CEO of the Motion Picture Association, makes $1.5 million per year, and Sony's CEO Howard Stringer made $4.3 million. Now here's a picture of Mr. .com taking part in the Paula Deen diet, or perhaps he's just eating a Hollywood studio executive's left leg. Court documents allege that Mega Upload activities cost copyright owners an estimated $500 million in lost profits, only slightly more than Warner Brothers lost last year on the Green Lantern. Earlier this month, the iPhone 4S went on sale in China. There was such a rowdy and unruly crowd at the Beijing Apple store that customers were turned away. This caused the crowd to grow angry, and they began throwing eggs at the store, because that's what you take with you to purchase an Apple product in China. I mean, everybody knows that. Apple decided it wouldn't be selling the iPhone 4S in its China stores at all, leaving customers to get them either on the company's website or from the usual place, hundreds of back alley vendors making iPhone knockoffs for fake Chinese Apple stores. The Chinese company In Icons was going to make what they were calling a lifelike Steve Jobs action figure. But after getting pressure from the Jobs family, they decided not to go through with it. The doll would have been a great hit Allegedly, ICON was going to give it the ability to pressure wireless carriers, ridicule Google and Microsoft, and tell household members how stupid their ideas were. Within a week of coming out, Nokia's newest phone, the Lumia 710, which runs Microsoft's still struggling Windows Phone 7, saw its price drop to a penny at Costco. That's with a 2-year T-Mobile contract. In other words, you can get a phone from a manufacturer that used to be good, from a company that makes phone software that's never been quite good enough, and run it on a network whose parent company, Deutsche Telekom, doesn't even want it. This just in, Costco is now paying customers to take the phone off their hands, and you get a 96-pack carton of toilet paper for free. And finally, Microsoft announced that this past CES, which took place a couple of weeks ago, it would be its last. Steve Ballmer provided the company's final keynote with Ryan Seacrest playing host on stage. After the show, Ballmer ate him. David, that's the news.
Thank you, Fritz. All right. Well, without further ado, I'd like to bring on our first guest. Edward Saatchi is the co-founder and CEO of National Field. I was about to say SAP, and
we promoted you.
As I said earlier, National Field played a very significant role in the social media strategy for the Obama election in 2008. We're obviously in an election year, 2012. One of the first questions I want to ask you, Edward, is back in 2008, there were multiple players involved in the Obama social media campaign. Obviously, that sort of came on the heels of all the success that Howard Dean had had. One of the companies was Blue State Digital. So when we heard about National Field, we're kind of curious, well, what exactly were the different roles between these companies and players who were involved in helping propel Obama to the presidency?
Yeah, so it's just like in enterprise social networking. You've got marketing, social networking that's totally focused outside the company. You're trying to get people involved to join your social network for your brand. And then inside the company, you've got something like a Yammer, you've got something like a Jive, which is for all of the staff to collaborate. The thing that was a little bit different for us is that we decided it should be a social network with data. It should be a social network with metrics, with key performance indicators. So we'd track all of the calls that were being made, all of the contacts that were being made, all of the one-on-ones that were happening, all of the work that was going on to create the huge hundreds of thousands of people campaign was being tracked every day on National Field. So instead of a social network where you're logging on, you're sharing articles with each other at the company, or you're sort of replacing email, you're logging on and you're seeing your goals. You're seeing how you're doing every day towards the goals that the company has set for you and that you've set for yourself. So it's a more of a metrics focus, and that's what we did for the campaign.
Okay, and just before we get into the demo here, 2012 election coming up. Any plans with the Obama campaign, and what are the Republicans doing in response?
Yeah, so we're working with the 2012 folks right now, and we were actually in New Hampshire a little while ago, and the other side, it does seem, is still a little bit behind, a little bit primitive. A lot of the tools that you were seeing there were sort of micro-targeting things back from 2006, maybe 2008. So it doesn't feel as though there was a lot of focus on data and technology. From what we saw from the Republican side.
Did they call you and say, "Hey, come on over to the other side"?
Well, there were some tweets, but those went unresponded.
Well, why don't we get a look at how this thing works? I mean,
yeah.
One of the things, and we can zoom in a little bit here, is it looks a lot like Facebook.
It looks a lot like Facebook. So one of the founders of Facebook is on the board. And the way that I actually sort of show it to people is, you start with this screen, and it should really provoke yawns for anyone who knows enterprise social networking, because this is what we've all got. Yammer or Jive or something like that, something that replaces email, something that's about upgrading employee onboarding. You get a new employee, let's get them there really quickly. You can have a leaderboard of comments, of likes, and all the rest. There's a real baseline in enterprise social networking that everybody's got. And then we go to a bit of a coup de théâtre, if you like, and go to take a look at what social networking is going to become in companies. It's not just going to be about friending each other and following each other at your organization. It's going to be about data. It's going to be about numbers. It's going to be about metrics. It's going to be about tracking every single thing that you do as a company and attaching that to a user profile. So just zooming in here, you can see, here, this is an example health organization. So we work with Kaiser Permanente, for example. You can see the data. It's in a beautiful context. You can see for every single person in the organization bar charts of how they're doing, whether that's tasks, if they're not doing something that's easily quantifiable. You can track it that way. And it just changes the organization. It makes the organization really competitive and fired up. And that's what we saw in the Obama campaign, and that's what we wanted to bring to companies, that sort of passion that you can get from your employees.
So you talk about KPIs, what do those look like?
So a KPI is a key performance indicator, and it's different for every organization that we work with. In health, that might be something as basic as how long a sort of escalation at a call center is taking to get responded to. We work with an airline. How long is the airplane on the ground? It can be really tactical things. It can be really strategic things like sales, revenue, those kind of core metrics. Democratizing that, making that easy to see is really important. And here, for example, you see the difference between a leaderboard of likes. Who's the most liked person at the office? Maybe that's helpful to a degree, but a leaderboard of the KPIs, that really helps people at the organization know what's going on. So you see that you log on, you see a feed that's just for you. We know the org chart of your organization. It's not based on friending or following, it's based on your org chart. You can see the data that's related to you. You can see your place in the leaderboard. You can see spark lines for everything within the organization.
So
you can
it
see
knows
a feed just for you.
It's a contextual based on your role?
It's based on three things, actually. So we have it's based on a group hierarchy, a role hierarchy, and a user hierarchy. So that just means who reports to who, what offices are you in, what departments are you in, what projects are you working on. And it's sort of light years ahead of where the other folks are, which is very manual, very much let's just have a feed of who you're following and friending. So it's a little bit of a different focus. And then here, if we take a look, there you can sort of see on a profile, yes, you've got the qualitative, you also got the sort of quantitative and the goals, and you can get that feedback from staff really, really easily.
Great.
No, I don't have any other questions. I think we're actually out of time. So,
Terrific.
Edward, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you
kind of
so
distant
much.
here, so hard for me to see the whole demo.
There you go.
But
You're very far
looks
away.
pretty good. And actually, just this is the framework that you use to manage the campaigns, but you're basically saying you can use it to manage anything with their KPIs,
so it's,
right?
we work with enterprise, with nonprofit, with government. It works everywhere.
And where to go to find more information?
Nationalfield.com.
And if you go to nationalfield.com/demo, you can actually see the demo live and in action.
That's right.
Great, thank you so
Thanks
much.
so much,
Thanks,
guys.
Edward.
So we're going to take a quick little break here before we bring Sanjay Poonan in, who is the president of SAP. We will be right back in about 2 minutes.
Since its debut in 2007, Internet Evolution has become the de facto source for independent opinion and analysis of next-gen Internet technology and its impact on business, society, and the future. Always on and always relevant, Internet Evolution's unique editorial voice and unstinting commitment to debunking the hype and hoopla around Internet technology makes it a must-read for its audience of information professionals.
The reason I come to Cloud Connect is to go and see what the latest developments are in the cloud ecosystem and what the latest developments are with the companies I care about.
It fundamentally changes the way in our business, the way that services will be delivered going forward.
To get some direct feedback from the customers as to whether or not our solutions match their needs, and then be able to identify where our gaps are so that I can help prioritize our future developments.
The reason we exhibit at Cloud Connect is we sell to service providers, and it's been a great show.
Information Week produces over 200 in-depth reports each year, with industry-leading information, including our Impact Report, outlining the top 5 mobile security threats, our 2012 Enterprise Social Networking Research Report, and our 2012 Research Report on Business Intelligence and Information Management. Our mission is to help you make informed buying decisions. Registration is free, access to content is unlimited, and is a must-have for all IT professionals.
Okay, we're back here at Information Week's Valley View. We're live here in our San Francisco audiences with San Francisco studios with a live studio audience. And our next guest is Sanjay Poonan. He is the president of SAP. Earlier today from Frankfurt, Germany, SAP announced its best earnings ever. It had its best year in 2011. It was a spectacular performance. And so Sanjay, I want to welcome you to the show here.
Thanks, David.
Thank you
Pleasure
for
to be
joining
here.
us.
Thank you.
So I'm going to just go right into the questions here. You had 16% year-over-year growth. Your co-CEO, Bill McDermott, wasted no time in trashing the competition, going after Oracle and Salesforce. And one of the things we know is that Oracle's had some rather lackluster results in the same department, 2% year-over-year growth. Their explanation for that, for those lackluster results, was a shifting in the way customers procure their products and approve big purchases like those from software vendors. Clearly, you haven't encountered the same problem. Is Oracle being disingenuous about what they're encountering in the market?
Listen, I mean, we're all competitive. I think Bill exemplifies that, as does Jim, our co-CEOs. And we're focused on execution. I think part of the reason we've been successful is three things. Number one, we've had an intense focus on the customer. That's not to say other competitors don't, but we've really been a customer-focused company from the inception. It's our 40-year anniversary. It's the best year in our 40-year history. And we have this campaign that you see in the TV ads, the best run businesses run SAP. And our 170,000 customers, these large customers focused with us, and we've been with them the last 8 quarters, and leading up to that, working on innovation that was very customer-centric. We focused on 3 innovation vectors: big data, mobility, cloud, very relevant to your audience and certainly relevant to a lot of CIOs today. And then we really recruited and groomed the best team. A combination of those factors, I think, has resulted in not just 1 quarter. We've had 8 quarters now of this building up, and we think now a pipeline of what can continue in 2012.
Well, one of the things that really helped was HANA. This is your in-memory appliance, and it's kind of in a 1.0 phase, and the expectations were that you guys would do about 100 million euro in business. You did 160. So real quick for the audience that may not know what HANA is, maybe the 30-second or less elevator pitch. Just a quick, what is HANA?
It's an in-memory platform, an in-memory database. Traditional databases are based on disk. And if you were building something today, you could take advantages of the dramatic shift in pricing between memory and disk, which have fallen, and allows you to build something, and you can scale this with hardware very, very easily. So we take that type of architecture, put our secret sauce into it, which is software, and now we can do big data problems in real time. So we could analyze customer patterns, analyze supplier patterns, and give this to you on your iPad so that you can make decisions quickly. This is the type of insight line of business and C-level executives are looking for.
Well, one of the things about HANA is it's a Hadoop-based technology, right? And so it's in memory, it's Hadoop-based. SAP has been positioning it now, beginning to position it as a database technology that can solve not just big data problems where you need a lot of performance and you're doing analytics across a huge amount of data, but also for your basic data warehousing, RDBMS. In some ways, it's the sort of database that can sit underneath any one of SAP's applications. In particular, you've got about 60% of your customers now running on the Oracle database platform, your apps on their platform. So do you see HANA as being sort of a really important arrow in the quiver to take share away from Oracle by supplanting that 60% and powering your apps with your own database?
Listen, we're always about customer choice. So a customer always gets to choose what they want to use in any part of it. We're number one in the application space. In the database market, we've typically not played. As you pointed out, we've resold or collaborated in many other places. And we felt, given the shift to what's happening in the hardware industry, memory to disk, and innovation, it does integrate with Hadoop. It's not based on Hadoop, but it has an innovative way in which, using sort of a Google-like search methodology, it stores data in column-based format, takes advantage of memory natively. What we can do now is allow many of our customers to get much more native advantage of this architecture. So we took one of our data warehouse products called BW, which has 16,000 customers, and we've now engineered a way by which HANA can run underneath BW natively, and performances are incredible. We had one of our customers at Sapphire, Red Bull, the drink, the energy drink,
I had
and they
10 before we started.
I'm glad, because this type of turbocharge that you get from HANA, you'll need 160 of those. But it's the type of innovation they're able to see now means that they're able to get insights much faster. They retired their old disk-based database, put HANA underneath BW, and they're seeing phenomenal results. So this is the type of performance we're seeing at many of the customers, and we'll take the market share it grows. I think as customers see the benefits of this, I think you're going to see us gain market share there.
Is the platform, though, diverse enough to, is it flexible enough to power other database applications?
Absolutely. I mean, ironically, 70% of our HANA use cases are sourcing data that has nothing to do with SAP. So while a lot of our focus initially is certainly the SAP customer base, we're seeing a lot of interest from customers. And remember, one of the moves that SAP made 5 years ago was to enter the analytics space through the acquisition of business objects. 80% of the business objects base sit on top of Oracle, PeopleSoft, non-SAP systems. And that's a very good target for us to also introduce HANA.
So this is going to play a major role in the goal that you established in December 2011, which is to become the #2 database player. I mean, you're going to have to leapfrog Teradata, IBM, and Microsoft to move into the #2 spot behind Oracle. Is this?
I mean, listen, like Jack Welch said, like any company that's a winner wants to be #1 or #2 in every market, right? So we will let the market share and our success speak for itself. We have a bold plan by 2015 to be #1 in all of our markets, a leader. And we're not going to play in a market unless we're #1 or #2. So it's good to be able to get the sales force pumped up, our developers pumped up. But at the end of the day, customers choose. And we hope through the innovation that we have and customer centricity in the way we interact with customers, we'll get a lot more of their wallet share.
Well, let's talk about SAP in the cloud. You mentioned that a little bit earlier, and I would argue that the company wasn't maybe as aggressive in 2011 as they might have been, but towards the end there was the SuccessFactors CEO, and Bill McDermott said, we want to be dominant there too. In fact, I think there's like a $2 billion target there, which kind of puts it in the Salesforce.com field. And so far you've got an all-in-one suite. You've got Business by Design, you've got some LOB apps, you've got some kind of niche vertical apps, you bought Data Tango. So you're getting there, but I would argue that SuccessFactors and Data Tango aren't enough, and that SAP may need to buy or build something around a platform as a service, something for the development of applications, something like Salesforce's Force.com or Database.com.
Listen, I think if you look at the cloud market, we believe in the second or third inning, largely because Salesforce.com, valid, good company, $2 billion or so, growing. Outside of that, the next biggest company, SuccessFactors, is big and growing. The interesting thing about SuccessFactors is they have 15 million users, okay, because they touch every employee. Salesforce.com has 25 as many customers, but has only 3 million users, largely because they only touch the salespeople inside a company. So we see an immense amount of potential to take this asset that can actually touch not just salespeople, but every employee, and now take this not to just 4,000 customers, 15% of whom are SAP customers, but to all 170,000 customers. So our vision is much larger than the current cloud players. We will have a number of line of business applications beyond just talent management, which SuccessFactors brings. We introduced a Salesforce collaboration solution that's doing very well. We think it's a completely innovative solution relative to Salesforce.com. We'll have a travel and expense application coming out in Q1. We have a sourcing application, all on top of a platform by design. So there is a connection between many of these pieces. And the final part that's important is that we allow our customers our choice of actually taking some of our on-premise software, CRM and RDS as rapid deployment solutions, and deploying them in private clouds. So for example, some of our customers take our CRM solutions and deploy it in the Amazon cloud or in the Rackspace cloud. Very valid use case of it. We don't get religious about the false cloud or the true cloud. It's a valid way in which our customers can lower cost. Many of the cloud vendors don't have that option because it's only their cloud or nothing else. Right. So as we extend our vision, we think as we approach the third and fourth and fifth inning, we have bold plans. And again, like any other space, we're not going to play in the cloud space except to win.
All right, so final question, so we're kind of out of time here, but SAP is known for its business applications, and you're talking about, we haven't even touched on mobile, but big data, the cloud, mobile, all these areas being #1 or #2 in all those areas. It sounds like SAP is spreading itself a bit thin.
We want us to lay out the vision of being the world's biggest, largest business software company. Okay? And as you look at how companies spend their money on business software, there's applications. That's a core part of what we do. We do it, we're 2.5 times the market share of our nearest competitor. But then what people said was, beyond these systems of record, they want systems of engagement to analyze that data. So we enter the analytics market. We saw the advent of how now people now are going to start analyzing that information on an iPad. So we felt it was a natural progression to move into the mobility market. People said, hey, listen, we would love to be able to analyze this data on top of a modern database. We moved into the in-memory database area. Many of the applications were moving to the cloud. So there is a path here where it doesn't just seem like a random walk. There are many of these things which are very connected. We're not moving into markets that are not close to our adjacency. And we find that when we pitch the story to a customer, they're excited about our vision. So it's important as a company becomes from a one-product company to a multi-product company, your adjacencies and what you move into are something that a line of business buyer or a CIO buys into. And we found that very exciting. That's part of the reason we had our best year in 40 years.
Great.
Okay, well, Sanjay, thank you very much for joining us. We hope that you'll come back next year
Thank you
after
very
you
much.
deliver the next set of results, and we'll have the same conversation.
Thank you, David and Fritz. Appreciate being here.
Okay. Well, when Fritz and I went out to CES, and we went out there with a whole crew, we were burning the midnight oil, working crazy hours to bring you lots of great video.
I was gambling.
You were gambling, that's right. If you want to see all of the products and the coverage, you should go to our coverage. You can get there by going to bit.ly/IWCES2012. We took all those hours of work and we compressed them into about 2.5 minutes. Here's what that 2.5 minutes looks like.
This is Rockstore's amphibious hard drive. No, it isn't a hard drive that can swim. It's a secure hard drive, meant for those situations that cannot withstand misplacement or loss. There are no visible screws or entry points for gaining easy access to the actual disk drive. But the RockSafe's most notable features are the numeric keypad on its glassy surface and a smart card slot. Without an authorized smart card and self-selected PIN code, the drive cannot be mounted by a PC or Mac. This is Aurasma's augmented reality browser. Aurasma is an autonomy company, which is, in turn, an HP company. Now, Autonomy is known mostly for its enterprise search and content management technology, but it's actually a treasure chest of interesting tools that aim to make sense of unstructured data. And Aurasma is one such treasure. It's loads of fun and a great way to experience rich content using your phone. This is a look at what Aurasma can do with real-world images. This is Envolution's Envolt. Of all the smartphone recharging solutions that we saw, and we saw a lot, this one was the most intriguing. Just attach it to your mobile phone and spin. That's it. The Envolt uses kinetic energy to supply a trickle charge. As users sit idly on conference calls, they can simply spin the phone to recharge. As end users bring devices into the enterprise, IT managers worry about securing and managing those devices and the applications and data that run on them. Mobile device management companies attempt to solve this issue, but VMware's solution is to create Android-based virtual machines, which will allow organizations and individuals to partition work-related applications and data from personal ones. In other words, VMware virtualizes the smartphone. Does Apple fib on its iPhone about signal strength? We put our iPhone inside of a box, a Faraday cage, that's supposed to block all signals altogether. In fact, we weren't getting any reception at all, but what displayed on the iPhone was full signal strength. Okay, now that wasn't everything that we saw at CES, so we're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into, I mean, it's hard to pick the best of the best, but we picked 3 of our favorites from CES. Now, one of the things that we saw a lot of, we saw so many different gadgets, it's hard to keep track, but healthcare is one of the big places where it's, I would say, kind of the consumerization of healthcare. Not only for fitness, but even for wellness and being treated by doctors, sending them information. I have with me Jeff Holov. He is the CEO of a company called Basis, and they make a watch that's kind of special. Thanks for joining us, Jeff.
My pleasure. Good
Great. So you're wearing the watch right now, right?
I am. This is the Basis band.
And what's special about this watch? I mean, it tells time. That's great.
does tell
As the
time.
kids would say,
Yes.
so what?
Yeah, it also tells the date.
Wow. Multi-function, multi-platform.
This is sort of part of this connected health trend that you talked about. And at CES, this is certainly the biggest year for connected health so far. And in talking to the show organizers, it sounds like they're already planning for next year to be even bigger. And I think that's a combination of a number of things. Clearly, what's going on politically right now, there's a lot of focus on trying to do something to improve healthcare. Our take on that is...
Are you referring to the Republican or the Democratic candidates?
Yes.
Okay.
We all have our own efforts that we're,
Okay.
our own ideas, right? So our take on that is a lot of this has to do with consumer empowerment around your own health, giving us more perspective on where we are versus where we should be, and some easy tools to get better, to live better. So our tool is the Basis Band. Inside of here are 5 sensors.
Show the audience here.
I'll take it off, and I'll actually
I'll
show you
too.
the back of the device here. You can see the sensors that I'm going to be talking about. So there's 5 sensors running all the time. There is what's called an accelerometer, which is common in devices today. That measures motion, which fundamentally is about measuring how active you are.
Not whether I've fallen down, but how active.
It can also be used for that, but
Okay.
typically in this space it's used to see how active you are, right?
Okay.
How many steps are you walking, those kinds of things. In our case, we add on top of that something called galvanic skin response, which measures perspiration, which helps us measure how intense those activities that you're engaged in are. On top of that, we add 2 temperature sensors, one to measure skin temperature and one to measure ambient temperature, and we can correlate those. But really the big breakthrough here is without using a chest strap, we can see heart rate. So we believe that the heart is a kind of fundamental indicator of your overall wellness. You can understand lots and lots about your health by understanding what's going on with your heart. So we have here an optical engine that is shining light into the skin and measuring the reflection of that light back into the device, into the optical center. And by doing that, we can actually see your blood flow through your capillaries, and that's how we get a heart rate.
Now, some products that do that can actually detect the level of oxygen in your blood too, right? Do you go that far?
Well, pulse ox is very much a known science. When you go to the hospital or you go to the doctor's office and they put that little thing on your fingertip to measure pulse, that's pulse ox. Conceptually, our approach to measuring heart rate is very, very similar. We're not literally measuring oxygen in the blood, but that technology of using light to see that blood flow is very similar.
Now, one of the things that's interesting, there are different products that do some of those things.
Yes.
And doing all of it in one device sounds good, but there's more to it than that, isn't there? I mean, it's kind of the combination of those factors that give you a picture of health and wellness.
Yeah, that's right. I think there's 2 really important things that we're doing here besides just more sensors running throughout more of your day. I think part of it is really having a sort of multidimensional view of the day, right? Not just measuring how active you are, measuring these other things. And I think the reason that that's important, besides covering more of the day, is it lets us understand not just what you're asking your body to do, not just how many steps you're walking, not just the activity, but how your body is responding to those activities, right? By seeing vital signs like the heart rate, we can see how your body is responding to 5,000 steps versus how my body or somebody else's body responds to 5,000 steps.
If your heart rate's gone up, but you're not doing anything, you're not perspiring, you're not taking a lot of steps, that could be an indication of something else going wrong.
Exactly, or similarly, your temperature going up could be because you're in a hot room versus the activity that you're engaged in, or your accelerometer may look very, very still, which to some devices might look like sleep, but to us may not look like sleep. So exactly the point. It's the ability to correlate the data coming from all of these sensors that gives us a much richer picture of what's actually going on.
Okay, so let's look at the picture. We're going to take a look at what we have here on the monitor here, and so all this data gets from the watch up into the cloud.
Up into the cloud, right?
Okay.
So it's a connected device. The watch collects data automatically, passively. You just wear the device. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to put it in special modes for it to identify special kinds of activities. And then when it connects to the cloud, all that data goes to the cloud. It runs through our fancy algorithms, and we get to spot trends. We get to identify the patterns. And render all of that data. And we believe very, very strongly that lots and lots of data is, of course, not the same as lots of information. So our job is to take all these data coming from sensors that people have never heard of before, like galvanic skin response, and turn it into something that regular folks understand.
So it there's an algorithm that crunches the data, gives you this. Now this is your profile here.
Right, so this is my profile, at least up until the part of the day when I walked over here. So what you can see here at the top of our dashboard is we're boiling all of this data down into very simple metrics. In this case, you can see how many calories I'm burning, and beneath that
I thought that's how many calories you ate today.
No, that's how many I'm burning. That's
2206 for those in the live audience.
That's activity. And you can see that I'm not quite at my goal yet. The small number underneath my calories is how many calories for my height, weight, age, etc.
I see. So it's not just showing what you've done, but kind of relative to where you need to be.
In the context of what you should be doing, right, or where you should be. Same with steps. And then sleep, you can see last night was a good night of sleep for me. And then to the right, you can see a kind of, an aggregating of how good of a day am I having, and then you can see that over time. So I'm earning points for doing the things that are good for me. And then beneath the scoreboard, if you like, beneath the dashboard, you can see the system automatically identifying events. You can see here it's identified 16 minutes where I was probably walking. You see a lunch walk in the middle of the day. You see beneath that it capturing automatically the sleep that I had last night. So the system is automatically finding these patterns and reporting them to me. And one of the big insights that comes out of that is just more awareness, right? The system automatically making you aware of the things that are going on in your life, giving you that sort of consciousness about those and making those choices more conscious for you. And then secondly, it's giving you the positive reinforcement. It's identifying the things that are good for you and rewarding you with points for doing the things that are good for you.
So this is yesterday.
Right.
So it looks like you kind of met your goals in all of these.
Yeah, I didn't get quite as much sleep yesterday, which is often the case in a startup, but you can see yesterday looks like I managed to make it out for a run, lots of steps there, which helps me burn more calories. So the goal here is to earn 100 points for the day. That's a day that I've lived well. It doesn't mean that I've lived perfectly. It doesn't mean that I haven't made some non-best choices, but it's a day that I've lived pretty well, and yesterday you can see I beat that goal.
Okay, so finally, just to wrap up here, we've got a lot of data here. I imagine you can export this data, maybe even feed it into, there are a lot of other products out there, some collaboration with those products. Is there any of that in the works?
Yeah, we haven't announced any specific plans around how this data will be shareable, but certainly in this space it is very much common practice, and we believe good practice, that these systems be open and that the data be exportable to the kinds of either other kinds of applications or other usage of the data that you'd want. And after all, it's your data. You ought to be able to export it and see it the way you like.
And you can get this now for how much?
We haven't launched it yet. Oh. What we've said is first half of 2012, and it'll be $199.
And you can get it where?
You can't get it yet.
Well, when you can.
You will be able to get it. You'll get it from us at mybasis.
I'm going to take yours, so I can get it right now.
Mybasis.com is where you can find it.
Great. Jeff, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right, we're going to join David Berlin. He's actually gone traveling out. He's an adventurous guy. He went out into our live studio audience where he's going to show us the next product from CES. David?
Hey, thanks, Fritz. And as of course you said, we've got the live studio audience behind us. And one of the categories that was really hot at this year's CES were Ultrabooks. These are really small notebook computers that pack all the power that the bigger ones from about 4 or 5 years ago used to have. And one of the ones we came across was this Ultrabook from HP. It's called the Spectre. It's the 14-inch version of it. Actually, the screen is 14 inches, but the chassis is 13 inches. And I'm just going to read through some of the characteristics here, some of the properties of this. It's got a 1600 by 900 resolution on the screen, so very high resolution. Although in this big of in this small of a display, sometimes at those high resolutions, characters can be quite small. People who have weak eyes, but it will be very brilliantly displayed. It's got Gorilla Glass all over it, not only on the display the way iPhones have, but also on the palm rest. And that would come in handy, let's say, if you were wearing watches or jewelry and you tend to scratch the surface of your notebook. Well, this will protect the surface of the notebook. HP claims that this can last, the battery in this, about 9 hours. So if you do any sort of coast-to-coast flying or even some international flying, this will probably last for the entire flight if it lives up to expectations. It's got a whole bunch of ports on the side here. One of the most notable ones is the gigabit Ethernet port. It's also got a display port, so if you want to hook it up to a chain of displays and have lots of displays connected to this when you're sitting at home, you can use that. Weighs under 4 pounds. And also supports USB 3.0. And finally, it also has what's called Beats Audio. Now, this is an audio technology that you've seen show up in some of the smartphones. It supposedly improves, to a great extent, the quality of the audio that you're hearing when you're using the port on the outside. There's actually a thumb wheel here to change the volume on that. HTC has that in their smartphones. Now, one of the things you can look at is the difference between the HP Ultrabook and a MacBook Air, and you can kind of see where they got their inspiration from on the keyboard. The keyboards are almost identical. One of the main differences, though, on the Spectre is that it has each key is illuminated by its own LED light. So I'm going to take a break here for 1 second and ask Andrea Ragney to step over. So Andrea, I've just described to you this notebook computer. You've heard about it. Now, before we continue, do you have anything to do with HP?
I do not, no.
And have we had a conversation before?
We have not.
You have had no conversation. No. You just sort of, I just answered out of the audience. In fact, when I grabbed your hand, you resisted. That's all right. But your friend sitting next to you said, "Go, go." So
here I am.
So you're not a paid shill of any sort.
No.
Can I ask you what kind of notebook computer you use right now?
Well, I have a personal Mac computer. I have a MacBook. At work, I use a Dell, and I also use an iPad as well.
So you're using a Dell at work, and that's not running the Mac OS operating system, is it? Right? And you're using a MacBook for work.
For my own personal use.
Oh, so you're kind of a hybrid person, right? So you would be willing. You're on the fence. You'd be willing to work with Windows because you already work with it. Would you be willing to work with it at home, or do you really like your Mac?
I'm personal to my Mac.
You're personal to your Mac.
I like the design aspects of it and things like that.
They won't buy you a Mac at work?
Not right now, maybe.
All right.
I wish.
All right. Well, let me know who they are. I'll send them an email on your behalf. You've just heard a whole bunch about this really cool Ultrabook from HP. If you were allowed to get a notebook computer at work, based on what you just heard, is this something that would interest you, or are you looking for other stuff in your notebook?
You know, what's cool about this, I thought, was when you talked about the pad where you rest your hands. I always wear watches and bracelets, and the fact that it wouldn't scratch is really something that's great. And then also, if the battery life, like you said, totally lives up to its expectations, I think that would be great as well when you're on a flight and things like that. The worst thing that can happen to you is you run out of batteries.
Unless, of course, you're in one of those new jets that has power on them, which is.
But sometimes those don't work.
Right. So how long does your MacBook usually last you?
You know, that's a good question. Maybe 5 to 6 hours?
Yeah, mine only lasts, I have a MacBook Pro 17-inch, you know, sucks a lot of juice and only lasts about 2.5 hours. So then it's time to get the iPad out and watch a movie when I'm on a flight, right?
Definitely.
All right, well, Andrea, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
All right, so there you go. That's the HP Ultrabook, the Spectre. It's called the Envy Spectre. If you get it, maybe you'll be the envy of all your friends, maybe not. Meanwhile, we've got more products to look at. Fritz is back at the table. He's going to be talking about a company called Lytro. They were, in addition to the Basis armband, one of the competitors in CES's last gadget standing competition, and they were the winner. So, Fritz, let's talk about Lytro.
You know, I'm going to join you out there. It doesn't look like you're getting too lonely, but I don't want you to be alone out there. So in a minute, I'll join you. But I've been looking forward to this for a while as well. And you were a judge for last gadget standing. Lytro has been kind of the buzz of the industry for the past few months. They make a camera. Well, it's not just a camera. It's, I think, designed to kind of change the way that digital photography happens. And I have Kira Wampler, I'm sorry, I butchered your name already, who is the Vice President of Marketing with Lytro, and she's going to show us how it works. But before we show how it works, we'll hold it up there for people to see. I mean, it doesn't even look like a camera. It looks like a toy of some sort. But what's so spectacular about this camera?
Sure. Well, this is the world's first consumer light field camera. And so what that means is that this camera captures the entire light field, which is the direction of light. No conventional camera does that today. And you might want to know, like, why would you care?
Why would you care?
Why would you care?
I'll ask that
the
question.
Kids
why would you
say,
care?
Why would you care? And the reason why you care is that when you capture that direction of light and you get that missing information that conventional cameras don't capture, you can do things with your pictures that you can't do with traditional pictures. The biggest and most interesting one is focusing a picture after the fact. So you shoot, take a picture, and then you change the focus after the fact. So that means there's no shutter delay. We turn the camera on instantly, and then you have a lot of creative control with the picture because you can tell some stories with the depth.
So you're trying to tell me that these big fancy cameras that cost thousands and thousands of dollars with all these sensors and everything in it can't do what that's going to cost $400, $399, right?
The opening model is $399, yes.
So that can do more in terms of capturing the entire light field than those cameras?
There's no consumer camera today that captures the light field. And actually, I'll spend a half a second talking about the history. It used to require a room full of cameras tethered to a supercomputer, precisely timed to capture the light field. And what our CEO and founder Ren Ung did is that he miniaturized the room full of cameras into the light field sensor on this camera, which is right about here. And then he miniaturized the light field engine so that we can process all of that data directly on the camera.
Wow. And so the results are pretty stunning. I think let's jump into how it works.
Sure.
It's pretty simple. I don't see any buttons on it. So how do you take a picture?
Sure. Well, it's pretty simple. There's a shutter button right there.
There it is, yeah.
And I click it on, just turns itself on.
So we get a little viewfinder there.
There's a viewfinder, there's a zoom. It's
so
not
really
really
an
interesting
You're
picture.
just kind of touching it with your finger there, and it's zooming in.
There's a zoom slider right on the top. There's a on-off button here, and then the USB right there, and then the shutter button here. I actually took some pictures of the crowd earlier. There you guys are. There's some folks from the crowd.
Unbeknownst to us.
Unbeknownst to you, you are already shot in the light field.
So wait, go back just for 1 second there.
Sure.
So you can see multiple pictures in there.
This is the 3x3 grid, so I'm looking at all the pictures.
Okay.
And then I just went back to one of my favorites. This is on the beach in Half Moon Bay a couple of weeks ago. And I can zoom in. I can focus on my daughter.
So your daughter was blurry just a second ago.
Right.
You tapped on her, and she went in focus.
Now she's in focus. And then I can find this cute little pug, and I can click on the pug and bring the pug in focus.
All right, so can you delete and do, I don't see
Sure.
any menus. Okay, so
So
there
I
you go.
swipe up, I can delete, I can check the storage, I can check the battery. The other thing that we can do is I can star this picture if it's my favorite. And because we offer an entire end-to-end system, desktop, web, mobile, when you star this picture, what that means is the starred pictures will be the first ones that come into your computer and start processing.
Now, at CES, I talked to your director of photography. He said there's a new little feature coming on where you can actually change the center of focus.
Right.
Can you show us that?
Sure. So in live view, I can swipe up.
There's a little flower icon
Little
there.
flower icon, though. Don't stay too wedded to that. And then when I go back into preview or into live view mode, then what I can do is, let's see, do you have a ring on?
I don't.
Okay, let's.
How about a Band-Aid?
Oh, let's do a Band-Aid because that'll be really sexy. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose to focus around your Band-Aid, and I'm going to take the picture, and then when I swipe, now if you noticed, it might have been hard to see on the screen, but the lens was nearly touching your finger.
Right, very, very close.
Very close.
So you can even zoom in on that.
So now I'm getting the fine detail of your Band-Aid. It's a little bit of a cooler shot if you have a ring on. The fine detail of your Band-Aid, and then I can control in really extreme macro this creative potential with the focus.
So it's kind of creating a depth of field that it takes, I mean, you guys have given this to professional photographers. What are they doing with this?
Yeah, you know what? We're hearing from professionals as well as from people who love photography that they're thinking about photography in a new way. They're thinking about telling stories in a multidimensional way. They're thinking about that moment of discovery. So if you're looking at a scene and there's a flower in the front, and then there's just something a little bit beyond the flower that you might want to click on, and when you do, you see a girl in the background. That's one of our famous shots right now on Lytro.com.
Well,
so that storytelling is something that the pros are really loving.
Well, we've got here on screen the Lytro site, and there's a lot of great pictures there if you want to go to Lytro.com. This one has a little squirrel.
Yeah.
So this is, I've uploaded my photos, and if I click on that squirrel, he comes into, or she, I don't know what.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It comes into focus, and those leaves go back out of focus, and vice versa.
Right.
So it kind of gives the photographer a lot of flexibility and ability to kind of play around with what kind of effect, almost different pictures for whatever it is that you want. And now
different stories within a picture. I mean, that's one of the things that we're hearing from the pros in particular, is that they love the fact that they can tell different stories within a picture and they can invite the viewer to interact with that picture. Now, on the other hand, someone like me, I like to refer to myself as the family archivist. With the picture of my daughter, I was just out at the beach, we were having fun, I picked up the camera, clicked the shutter, and I was able to focus the picture after the fact and get a great picture. So we're really seeing these sort of two interesting groups of people taking pictures with the camera.
So a few quick questions. It stores this in proprietary format for now,
Correct.
Not readable by Adobe Photoshop and all that, but that will change, one thinks?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, we believe that light field is the next wave of photography, so from film to digital and digital to light field. And of course, we want the light field file to be something that's natively adopted in as many tools as possible.
How many pictures can that hold?
So we have two models. We have a graphite and an electric blue that are 8 gig, and they hold 350 light field pictures. The red hot that I'm holding is 16 gig, and it holds 750 pictures.
And $399 for the 8 gig.
And $499 for the red hot, the 16 gig.
The red hot. And available when? You can pre-order it now, right?
You can pre-order it now. We started taking pre-orders on Lytro.com, and we start shipping our first orders in a little bit. We're very excited.
All right. Well, get your order in now, because I went to place a pre-order and it's April or May before I can get mine. So thank you so much. This is a very exciting new product. But that's not all from CES. We've actually got a couple of products that I want to say, pilfered from the show floor that we're actually going to give away here in a second. David, I'm going to throw it back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Fritz. Yeah, this is sort of like a midnight requisition. We found some products on the show floor. We actually brought them back, and we're going to be giving them away to our online audience just in a few moments here. And I'm going to go over some of those products and what some of the characteristics are of them. One of the products that we found was this backpack. Now, this is not your ordinary backpack. This is from a company called Power Bag. And what makes this different? You may have seen some of these bags that are on the market right now that will power your devices through a solar panel. This is not that bag. What this bag is it's a bag that you can put your devices in. It's pre-wired, so it's got connections for different USB configurations, micro USB, mini USB. It's even got a 30-pin connector. And when you put your devices in this bag, then you take a power adapter, like a little power brick, and you plug it in to this port right here. And what that does is it charges a battery that's inside the bag. This particular bag has a 1900 milliamp battery in it, and that battery will store your charge. And if you're somebody who's got, let's say, an iPhone 4, which can hardly make it through the day on one single battery charge, then what you do is you put it inside this bag, and you hook it up, and then you press this button that's on the front here for a couple seconds, and what it'll start to do is you'll see a light going up. I don't know if you can see it on the camera because we have a lot of lights here in the studio, and that will recharge your iPhone. Now, the company says under a 1900 milliamp battery that's in here, there's different size batteries you can put in here, it's very modular, that you can charge an iPhone, let's say, up to 4 times off of that one charge. You can charge other devices too. You can put iPads in there, you can put other smartphones in there, USB-based devices. Very cool. I've been playing around with it. I actually had a bunch of devices in here. I just sat it down next to a plug on the wall and plugged the whole bag in. And if you're just sitting there with the devices plugged into these wires and the bag plugged in, you'll just charge the devices as you go. You don't have to worry about depleting any of the charge that's in the battery. One of the other characteristics of the bag is that when you take this through an airport where you store your notebook, it'll flop open. There's a bunch of stuff falling out right now. And what this does is you slide it through the security, through the X-ray machine like this, and you leave your notebook in this side. Now the notebook slides into a pocket that's in the back there. It's a padded area, but it doesn't hold a very big notebook, like a 17-inch notebook, so it's limited on size. And again, the bag not very cavernous. I actually used this bag at CES to see if it would get me around a little bit. One last thing, if you have some sort of device that has some sort of proprietary charging cable, there is one USB port on the battery inside the bag that you can connect to that. So that's the Power Bag, and we're going to be giving that away to one of our lucky audience viewers. And then, Fritz, you're standing here next to me, and you've got a funky pair of headphones on your head.
Yeah, these are yours, actually.
They are mine, that's correct. And these are the headphones from a company called VoxLink. We found these on the show floor. And what's special about these is, if you can focus in on that, you'll notice that you turn your head this way, though, so they can see, is that there is no ear cup or in-ear earbud on these. Okay, so if you're used to something like a Bluetooth headset that goes into your ear and there's no microphone, but somehow it's picking up your sound, the way it's picking up that sound is through your jawbone. It's called bone conduction technology. Your bones actually carry a lot of sound. Well, this is the same thing, but in the other direction. So what happens is the sound comes through, it comes into these pads that are sitting on your temples here, and then you'll hear the music or whatever the audio is that you're listening to with no trouble. It gets transmitted directly to your inner ear through your bones. Now, why would you use something like this? Well, the reason you use this is, let's say you're driving and you want to use your phone in a hands-free way, but you don't want to use one of the earbuds, let's say it came with your iPhone, that blocks other sounds that are in the environment around you that you might need to hear. For example, a horn honking or someone screaming. Same thing with running. A lot of runners have been injured crossing streets by cars. If they can't hear the car coming, the likelihood of injury is a lot higher. This allows you to hear your music or whatever it is you're listening to and everything that's going on around you at the same time.
I've been listening to Justin Bieber this entire time.
Yeah, I won't question your judgment on music. So is that between Barry Manilow and Neil Sedaka?
And Air Supply,
yeah,
actually.
Okay, thank you.
But there's some other kind of where these came from applications.
That's right. The origins of the technology date back to military applications. So you can imagine, let's say you're a soldier in the field, Fritz, and you need to hear the commands coming from your commanding officer, but you also need to hear the enemy who's in the bushes rustling behind you. So this is the sort of technology that they use in the field. Now it comes in two different versions. One version is the version that has built-in microphones, so you can use it with your iPhone, and it could become a hands-free phone set. And another version, lesser expensive version, is one that works with just any other MP3 player or iPod. And so we'll be giving away the version that works with phones. And
Not yours. I mean, one other advantage is I didn't have to get your earwax.
That's right, if you're sharing here. Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up. Not the earwax bit, but there's one other advantage that I thought that they didn't advertise that I thought was interesting. If you have kids, and they're always putting headphones on, they're playing the music very loudly through their headphones, you can't really hear how loud it is. Right? With these, they can play it loudly, but it won't have direct access to your inner ear and your eardrums where it could do some damage. Now, I'm not a doctor, I haven't done any studies on this, but I immediately saw this and said, these are the headphones I want to put on my kids' heads, not the ones where I can't hear what's going on and whether they're causing damage to their ears.
Great. So we're going to be giving away to one online viewer the backpack and these headphones, not these particular ones. And then for another viewer, we're going to have this beautiful Amazon Kindle Fire. Now, I probably don't have to explain what this is, the latest in Android tablets, and probably the only tablet of any sort that's given Apple a little bit of run for its money in the iPad.
Just a bit of a challenger. I mean, Apple released its results today, right? And they broke all records. Like SAP, it was their best year ever, best quarter ever. iPhone 4S obviously propelling it to new heights. I don't know if you saw the numbers. They have $97.6 billion of cash in the bank. That's enough to buy half of Google.
And also $100 million has been spent going after Samsung. Let's announce who the winners are. For this beautiful Amazon Kindle Fire, viewer Cindy Chamber is going to be the recipient of this. And for the headset and power bag, Andrew Coe. I assume that's how you say your name. Andrew, congratulations to both of you.
Okay, now we're going to be giving out more gear at our next Valley View, and if you want to get on the list to be picked randomly to win something, then all you have to do to get signed up for the next Valley View, which is February 16th, is go to bit.ly/ValleyView3. That's where you'll find all the information to sign up for our giveaways.
And that's it for the show, David.
That's it. For Information Week, I'm David Berlin.
And I'm Fritz Nelson. Thank you for joining us.